Proud American Patriot Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. What are we going to talk about today? What's on everyone's mind? I've been thinking, I think I got one for everyone here. How about we all take a moment and thank Hamas? No, I'm not losing my mind, at least not yet, but keep listening and you'll see where I'm going with this. So we all know October 7th, Hamas launched a brutal attack into Israel, killing somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400 innocent Israelis and taking around 240 hostages back into the Gaza Strip. So shortly after that, you had a couple of great leaders in the U.S. come out and praise Hamas and condemn Israel. Good upstanding people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, terrorists. Then something happened. All these ultra-woke rioters decided to take up the cause. They did the only thing they know how to do: vandalize and terrorize people. Those rioters are the same people that the left encouraged during the 2020 so-called Summer of Love and BLM riots. The same rioters who have the mentality of a 2-year-old, and if they don't get their way and aren't held in check, will throw a series of temper tantrums. Rioters who've been taught to believe that there are no boundaries to what they do, because to the left, their cause is just. That's where the problem for the left started. These rioters were specifically targeting Jews. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, what they're doing is wrong and disgusting, but why is this going to cause an issue for the Democrats? Well, I'll tell you. First, the Democrats are losing supporters, and they're losing them fast. They are losing them like California's hemorrhaging residents. Their base is falling apart underneath Biden and his administration, and here is where the left allowed things to get worse for them. You see, the majority of Jewish people identify as Democrats, and many of them donate large amounts of money to the Democratic campaigns. This is where the left finds themselves in a bit of a pickle. They refuse to condemn the pro-Hamas terrorists, essentially giving their Jewish supporters a big old middle finger. They don't care that these are the same Jewish people who saw mass genocide less than a century ago at the hands of the Nazis. The same Jewish people who for decades since World War II have had to constantly look over their shoulder because of the threat of radical Muslim terrorists whose sole goal it is to kill every Jew they can. Now, the Jewish people here in the United States, they at least found some protection, some sanctuary. Yes, they still face bigots and idiots who brought violence to their doors just for being Jewish, but not nearly on the scale of Israel, where they're surrounded by people who literally want their death. For those that don't know, anti-Semitism is the biggest hate crime in the U.S., regardless of what the media would have you believe. Jews currently make up 2.4% of the U.S. population and are targets of more hate crime than any other group. Then they got targeted even more. The left abandoned them, failing to stand up for them in the way that they stand for others, such as blacks, LGBTQ alphabet soup, and even terrorists. Yes, Biden will act like he's on their side, but if he really was on their side, wouldn't he condemn the actions of those who wish to do them harm? Wouldn't he do more than just say, don't, to those countries who wish to do harm to the Jews in Israel and worldwide? Wouldn't he refuse to send money he claims as humanitarian aid to Hamas? Wouldn't he put his foot down and say no more, backing Israel with the full force of the U.S.? No, instead he tries to play both sides of the fence, thinking he can fool both sides into believing that he's on their side. I have a feeling that a lot of these donations from Jewish Democrats aren't going to be there when the Democratic passes the hat around. And why should they be there? The Democratic Party has made their living trying to lie to we the people on both sides of the aisle. Now that they have shown that they don't really care about their constituents, they don't care about the people, and will turn their backs on them in a heartbeat, they have willingly sold their souls to the woke social justice warriors of the ultra-progressive left. Not that they necessarily believe in the movement or the cause. They don't believe in any cause for very long. Look at how quickly they turn their backs on women. No, they throw their support behind whatever fringe group is making noise, hoping their virtue signaling will appeal to the masses, selling their souls for a brief moment of power. But not just selling their souls, the souls of this country many of us love. Now, I've said I look at the entire picture and will give credit where credit is due. I never thought these words would come out of my mouth about this person, But I have to give credit to several Democrats who showed up at the pro-Israel march in Washington, D.C. especially one Chuck Schumer. For all the ignorance, evil, and hate this man has spewed out of his mouth over his political career, he did the right thing this time, and he stood with Israel and the Jewish people here in the U.S., calling out Hamas for the evil that they are. Again, thank you, Hamas, not for the acts of violence against the Jewish people on October 7th. For that, there's a special place in hell for you and all your supporters. But for forcing the majority of the left to show who they are in choosing you over the Jewish people. And to the Jewish people currently on the left, and those of you who stand with them, on behalf of Republicans and libertarians everywhere, I invite you to join us. We will support you and not turn our backs on you when some fringe group pops up. Unlike the fickle left, we believe in loyalty to our friends. Now, I've got Michael from Just Us Thinking joining me. He's coming in cold. He has just a vague idea as to what I was talking about. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Wow. I never thought I'd hear you say, thank you, Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
So he did do the right thing.
He did. He got up in front of however many 100,000 people it were at that march, and he spoke out in favor of them and against Hamas.
Wow, good for him. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad he stood up for the right thing. Now, can we get other Democrats to, I guess, take note of that and say, you know what, maybe it's not about the party line, maybe it's about doing the right thing?
You know, that would be great. I don't know that it would happen. There were some other Democratic speakers there, but Chuck Schumer, he was the big name. He's next to Biden. He's kind of looked at as the co-head of the Democratic Party, and he's the one that always totes that party line. And for him to kind of break, I think he spoke out more than what the Biden administration was hoping he would, because like I said, they're trying to play the fence and kind of play both sides of the field.
Well, so isn't that kind of what they just did, though? I mean, so how do we know that the Democratic Party didn't say, hey, Chuck, why don't you go with Israel? All right, you guys go with Hamas. We'll play both sides, and we'll get whatever side we want. How do you know that didn't happen?
Because that's political suicide. You have two groups that are violently opposed to each other. You can't play both sides in politics. Now, if you're an arms dealer, that's great for business.
Yeah.
You're selling to both sides left and right. But if you're relying on these people to put their support behind you and vote you into office or back into office, it just doesn't work. You're going to end up pissing off one side, and they're going to either not show up or they're going to go to the other side. And I welcome them. I welcome all the Jewish people that want to come over to the right.
Throughout history, though, we have now seen, because hindsight's 2020. 50-50. But hindsight's 2020. So we could look back and say, yep, I see where they made the mistake, and it's clear to us. Maybe that's their mistake. Maybe they tried something new, and they're going to say, yeah, we're going to play both sides. And I'm telling you, it's going to eat them alive. I know that.
Oh, it is. These two groups are so diametrically opposed to each other. It's not like, because I thought their political suicide was with the whole trans movement and supporting men in women's sports. Stay tuned for an episode on that, or several episodes actually. But that they didn't quite go over the edge on that. This, with Tlaib and Omar leading the pro-Hamas charge, and them becoming such vocal leaders in the left, I don't see that there's coming back to it. They've rallied their BLM protest base to jump on this cause and create disruption, create panic, go vandalize and destroy, do whatever it takes to get your message out there and be heard. And the left media isn't talking out against them really. It's they're just want to be heard.
So you said a lot. There's a lot of the Jewish communities on the side of the left. They're Democrats.
Historically, the majority of the Jewish people out there are Democrats.
Why would they even do it? Why are they going to shoot themselves in the foot and go pro-Hamas?
Well, exactly. It's the I think in 2024, you're going to see a very large swing of that Jewish population that typically votes Democrat. You're going to see one of two things like I mentioned before. They're either going to sit out this election in protest, or they're going to give that middle finger back to the left and come over to the right and vote Republican.
I think not just the Jewish community, but other communities need to start doing that too, because they keep getting screwed over.
Oh yeah, the whole thing with the Democrats and the African American population is they've got the African American population convinced that they're on their side and they're going to do whatever is best for that community. Except for they don't.
No.
Time and time again, they don't. They give them a little crumb and a little crumb, but really all they're doing is keeping that black population underneath their thumb. Their whole goal is to make them think that we're going to do what's right for you, but they never do it.
Right.
They tease a little bit here, they tease a little bit there. They never follow through.
No.
So
and their idea of not having voter registration is the direct line to that was, well, it's going to affect black people and it's going to affect the black vote. They're not going to be able to vote. So are you calling them poor?
Yeah, exactly. Or, well, not everyone can afford to go out and get a voter ID card, and it's going to affect the black people. So you're giving them a little bit of a backhand there, and like you said, you're calling them poor. And
I don't want to say that that's true. I don't believe that.
No, and it's like I've said other times.
Like
I believe in voter ID, and you know what? Make the voter ID cards free.
Yeah.
You go to your local DMV, fill out a form, show something that says you're who you are,
Yep.
Be it social security card or birth certificate, something that can identify you as you. You get put into the system, you get a card printed out for you. It's nice, it's solid, it's laminated, just like your driver's license. It just says voter ID on it.
Well, here's the other kick in the pants that they go to as well. Not only do they say, well, the black community can't afford it, but they also say, well, they won't know how to do that. So not only are you calling them poor, but now you're calling them stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will tell you, that's not true.
No. But, unfortunately, the black community hasn't woken up yet. I think what's happening in our world right now between Israel and Hamas has really stirred the Jewish community, and I think it's woken them up.
Well, and I watched the Hodge twins. Love those guys. They saw the writing on the wall. There's a lot of people that are starting to wake up in different communities. So it's going. Unfortunately, it takes an event like this for people to go, "Hey, wait, what?" And that's what happens.
Yeah, definitely. It's the left is notorious for using people until either they no longer have a use for them, or something bright, shiny, and new pops up.
Right.
They're like a 2-year-old with ADHD.
Jeez, that's a scary thought, and that's what's running our government.
Right. Well, what's running our government is someone that's old and senile and doesn't know what he's saying or what he said yesterday.
How's that any different than a 2-year-old?
Well, true. 2-year-olds are a little bit harder to catch. Biden, he's going to fall down at some point. So.
Yeah. Well, and if you put a little kid in front of him, he'll chase him.
Yeah, he wants to smell the hair.
Yep. He loves that hair.
Sick bastard.
I know.
No, I really think that this has been a wake-up call to many groups inside the United States. Not, like you said, not just the Jewish people, but I think there are people in other groups that are going to see how this is playing out and realize that the Democrats may say one thing, but then do another.
Yeah.
And we both have kids. We've seen where our kids will say they're going to do one thing and then they do the complete opposite. Again, just like the Democrats, but
it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Hamas going in there, I don't know why they did that. The Democrats doing what they're doing, unlike Epstein, they hung themselves.
I know why the Hamas did it, is because in their charter, they want the complete and utter destruction of Israel and the extermination of every Jew in the world.
Yeah.
So, they told us years and years and years ago why they were going to do this. And that's, if I had to give props to Hamas about one thing, it's they don't try and hide it. They come right out and say, here's what we're going to do, like it or not. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So now it's up to Israel and the entire world community to say, if that's how you're going to behave, we're going to stomp you into the ground until you're nothing but dust.
I just don't get it. I don't. They said that that's what they're going to do.
Right.
We're going to do this, and you're right. You gotta the tenacity of these folks, But I tell you, Russia did the same thing. Russia said we're going to do this.
Oh, yeah,
and everybody said no, you won't. And then they did, and you're
right.
like, wait, why did you do that? Well, like you didn't have a warning here.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how things like this typically happen underneath a president that's a Democrat.
It happens under weak leadership.
Mm-hmm. Now, people will say, well, 9/11 happened under Bush. Well, yes, it did. However, the plans and 9/11 was already in motion going into that 2000 election.
Right.
They were figuring that it was going to be Gore in charge and nothing would happen after they did it.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunately, they bet on the wrong side,
No.
and
Gore would have done something. I'm telling you, Gore would have done something. He would have fined them for the gas they used for that,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah,
okay, you owe us $1 billion.
Yeah, he would have lectured them about all this dirt and debris they put up in the atmosphere, causing global warming.
Right. Yeah. We're going to fine you $1 billion. Now we're going to give you $2 million for your trouble.
Yeah.
But we're gonna keep $1 billion. It's so bullshit.
Mm-hmm. The Biden administration wants to give aid to Hamas. So, for those of you that don't know, the billions and billions of dollars that have gone into Hamas or gone into Palestine after in 2005 when Israel completely pulled out, 2006 Palestine had elections. Unfortunately, they elected a majority of Hamas as their leadership. The leaders of Hamas are doing two things with all that aid money that flowed in for the Palestinian people. They're taking it for themselves, and they're building these tunnels that Hamas is hiding under. The three big leaders of Hamas don't even live in the Gaza Strip. They're in Qatar and I think one or two other Arab countries. And the three of them, two are worth better than $4 billion, one's worth better than $3 billion.
So I guess my question is, I know the leaders are saying something, and we have heard from Biden, but what about the vice bitch? What's her name?
Oh, Harris?
Harris, yes.
I haven't heard her actually say anything about this.
Why not? I mean, shouldn't she? She's a vice.
Because have you heard her speak? Would you want her speaking about anything?
You're the vice president, though. I mean, you're number two. Whether you shouldn't have that position if you can't speak.
She is a number two. You got that right. But when you
I
talk,
call her a vice bitch. So
when you talk and you say things like, "The future is our future," it's the future for all of us because it's the future. What the fuck? What just is that garbage that just came out of your mouth where you said the future 8 times?
I've given a speech like that. I had no clue what I was talking about. I had no idea what the issue was, and someone handed me a mic, and I had to say something, and I did the same thing. I'm like, we're here because we're here for support, and we're going to continue to be here until we're not here to fight anymore. I said not a goddamn thing.
Yeah, but it's different when you're going into something completely cold like that, not expecting it. And when you've got a scheduled speech and speech writers that are giving you talking points on what you're going to talk about, and you come up with, the future is the future. Because it's the future. Tomorrow's the future. Next week is the future. The future is the future.
You're too hard on her. She was auditioning, right?
Auditioning for what, the Village Idiot?
No. She's going to be playing the I believe the Scarecrow in the next Wizard of Oz.
If she only had a brain.
Yeah.
Well, and the left wants to make everything about equal. So why wouldn't you have a black woman Scarecrow?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So yeah,
I'm equal opportunity there.
I am an equal opportunity
dead.
destroyer.
Yeah, anybody could be brain dead.
She is. I I honestly think that the more I look at it, Biden didn't choose her because she was a black woman or a multiracial woman or a woman or breathing. He chose her because she was a life insurance policy. Even the craziest person out there doesn't want to take him out and put her in that chair.
I think you're giving him too much credit with that statement, but I see it.
Maybe not him. Maybe the people pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm not sure he even knows who she is.
Do any of us really know who she is?
No, she disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Why isn't she over there helping with everything? Isn't the vice president? Isn't that what part of their job?
Now, again, we both have kids. The way I look at it is, you can do one of two things when you're raising kids. You can have them help you with a project, teach them how to do something, have it take 10 times longer than if you did it yourself, or you can just do it yourself and get it done. She's like that kid. In times of crisis, do we really want her in there, helping us take 10 times longer to figure out what we're doing, and probably doing it wrong 4 or 5 times along the way? You've already got Buttigieg that can't do anything right.
Well, but yeah, you're right here. But when the person you're right. We have kids, and if we want it taken longer, we'll just say, we'll just do it ourselves, so it doesn't take that long. But we are also not going to fuck the whole thing up. They take her out so she doesn't fuck it up and still fuck it up.
Right.
How does that happen?
Biden. I actually saw. We're talking about Biden. I wasn't going to get off onto the whole Biden thing, other than his ineptitude in being able to pick a side. But I actually saw. It's probably a month or so ago now. He was doing a rally in Pennsylvania. One of those rallies where like 10 people that they pay to show up.
Right.
Big signs in the background. Bidenomics. It's working for you.
They steal that from Reagan?
Well, the whole idea of Bidenomics and it working is just irony. It's an oxymoron. I mean,
yeah.
Whose life is better under Bidenomics?
Nobody.
Yeah.
His, because, he's the only one support. Hunter. Yeah, Hunter's doing pretty good.
Yeah, Hunter's doing pretty good. Now once they get done with all this investigating, he may not be doing very good, but...
Yeah.
But, it's you could say Biden, he's doing better under all this, but I don't think he knows what's going on.
Yeah,
Have you listened to him speak recently? And just so all of you know, we're actually recording this on November 20th, Biden's 81st birthday.
Is it really?
Happy birthday, Biden. And fuck you. I'm going to send him a birthday card, and all it's going to be is you open it up, and it's going to be one of those 3D pop-out ones. It's going to be just a big middle finger, and it's going to say, fuck you.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I know. I'll have the Secret Service at my door. And
No. He's going to think he's number one.
he probably would.
I don't think he's going to say, this guy really likes me. I'm number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like one of those football things. I think they picked the wrong finger, but that's okay.
I don't even think he'd get that.
Yeah. Oh, we're so horrible sometimes, but...
Well, if the truth hurts...
I know. And sometimes it's a bat to the head.
Well, it's not even a bat to the head. This is, for the left right now, it's them just consistently running into a brick wall.
Yeah.
And getting up and doing it again at full speed.
Just makes no sense.
No. When has the left ever made sense?
That's true.
You've got to go back to Kennedy for the left to make sense.
I like Kennedy.
Kennedy was good. And the crazy thing is, if he was alive today, he'd be looking at what the left is doing and he'd be sick.
Well,
I don't think he would identify as the left anymore.
But his crisis, his Hamas, was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but he said, nope, I got a plane waiting to blow you to hell.
He was a strong leader.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to take it. He wasn't going to roll over. He told Cuba and Russia, nope, here's the line. Don't cross it. If you do, bad things are going to happen.
Well, and you mentioned Bush was in 9/11. So just because you have a strong leader doesn't mean someone's going to try something stupid, okay? Someone will try something stupid all the time. The difference with what was happening now and what happened then is we had one event. How many events have we had since Biden has been in office?
Oh, jeez.
right?
Yeah, it's been a lot, and not just the big ones of the Ukraine and Israel. There have been
Afghanistan.
You've got just earlier today, the Houthi rebels, which is another Iranian-backed terror group, went in helicopters and seized a cargo ship.
Yep. So you got to understand that these groups they pay attention. They're not ignorant by any means. They're very smart, and they know what the hell they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. So someone pushes, and then they see how much resistance they get back. And if they don't get any, well, the cat's away. Mice are going to play.
Yeah. Well, and here's a perfect example of Biden's ineptitude. Iran was on its knees with the sanctions that they were under, both from the U.S. and the world at large. They were on their knees. What's one of the first things Biden does? Oh, here's $10 billion. But you can only use it for humanitarian aid. All right. Now, anyone that knows anything about books knows you've got this money coming in. You can shuffle that. Okay, so we were going to take this money to humanitarian aid, but now we've got this $10 billion, so we're going to shift this over to terror groups and then take the money that they're giving us and we'll just put that in the humanitarian aid. But it's not really going to go to humanitarian aid because by the time we run it through about 10 different places, it'll end up in our pockets also.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
You can't, and we should have learned this long ago. I mean, if nothing else after 9/11, and as a country we did learn it for several years, you can't reason, you can't barter with a terrorist.
No.
The only thing you can do with a terrorist is put them in the ground.
Didn't we do a prisoner exchange too?
Oh yeah, Biden did a prisoner exchange, and lo and behold, the people that he released and sent over there are back with ISIS now.
Well, so we're gonna live to fight another day,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and it's you come over here and you get put up in I wouldn't say luxury, although compared to the caves they were living in, Gitmo was probably pretty luxury. You get TVs, you get food, you get to go out and play soccer. Don't really have a big care in the world because, we can't really interrogate them. We're just holding on to them until we figure out what we're going to do with them. And then you can go back and go to your old life and be a hero of ISIS or a hero of Hamas or name your terrorist group.
Yeah. Hamas, ISIS, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's a bunch of radicals that have completely bastardized a religion. And, really the problem is Islam, and there are many, many Muslims that still believe in the core tenets of Islam. I've been able to know, I wouldn't say a lot because we don't really have a large Muslim population here, but throughout my life I've been able to meet and get to know some Muslims, and I'll tell you what, I've not met one that's crazy. They all believe very much the same things I believe in, loving your neighbor, being peaceful, being tolerant, to a point. I mean, there's a point where you have to draw the line.
Right.
But, if you go back in history, somewhere around 1000 to 1100 BC is when Islam took a sharp turn to we're going to be crazy fanatics. And we're going to ditch all the teachings of Islam. But at the same time, if you don't believe in Islam, we're going to kill you.
Right. So in no means are either one of us bashing a religion like a Muslim. We're not bashing Muslims.
No, not at all.
It's the extremist. Now, I will go just as far to say, if you're Christian, great. If you're a Christian skinhead, you're the problem.
Exactly. I mean, if you're a complete right-wing extremist, be it a skinhead, neo-Nazi, a Christian fanatic that takes on the same type of beliefs as Muslim fanatics, then you know what? I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm going to call you out on it too.
Yeah.
To me, neo-Nazis have no place in society. Skinheads have no place in society. The idea of hating a group of people based on them being part of that group of people is ridiculous.
I agree.
Judge each person on their merit.
Right. Not by the color of their skin or who they call their God.
And Martin Luther King said it best when he said, "I dream of a day when a man is judged not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character." And I think that's how we need to look at everyone is, what's the content of your character?
Yep. I agree.
So let me ask you, since we're talking a little bit about Israel and Hamas, What do you think Israel should do about this? I know there's lots of calls for ceasefire and for Israel to stand down. Do you think that's a good idea for them?
I always want to call for ceasefire. That has to be my go-to of if you could not start a war or not go down that path, I'm okay with that. So I'm all for the people that are saying, ceasefire. I believe they're just looking for the right thing to do, but deep down in my heart, deep down, I want to say I don't think a ceasefire is the answer. I hate to say that. I hate to say violence is the answer. I don't want to say that. But I've got to look at the other side and say they're the ones that chose it.
Right. And, when you started out, I was going to wholeheartedly disagree with you because I don't think there is any room for a ceasefire after what Hamas did. And it's not just a one-time thing. Hamas has been doing this over and over and over again.
I know.
And as soon as Israel responds, it's, ceasefire, ceasefire.
I know.
And there comes a time where it's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Well, Israel is going out of their way to do everything they can to protect civilians. Yeah. Hamas is doing everything they can to put civilians, their own people that they claim to be fighting for, to put them in harm's way. And I think there comes a time, much like when 9/11 happened and we looked at the Taliban and other terrorist groups and said, we need to put an end to it.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, we didn't carry through all the way with the Taliban. A couple of different reasons for that I'm not going to delve into tonight. But the Hamas terrorists are in a small enough area, and Israel is powerful enough and pretty much has them surrounded. I think it's time to stomp them into nothingness. I think it is time to remove them from the equation and send a message that if you're going to do stupid shit, bad shit's going to happen to you.
So, and here's my problem. I don't like that I agree with you. I don't like it. I don't want to say violence is the answer, but when it's the only option at that point, like you said, enough's enough.
Let me ask you a question that I've heard you ask before when we've been talking. If I got up right now, walked over and punched you in the face, and then I punched you in the face again, and then I punched you in the face again, how many times would that happen before you punched me back?
You get one. You could get lucky and you get one with me. I will try to block the second one, but if you go for a third one, I'm sorry. You chose the path you took. I don't want to choose violence. I don't. My first thing is no. But you're right. You could only take so much.
And that's where Israel is right now. They've been punched in the face. They got punched in the face again and they tried to dodge. They got punched in the face again and they tried to dodge. Finally, you have to say, enough is enough. There's nothing I can do peacefully. And believe me, I'm not a pacifist, but I believe that peace should always be the first option.
I agree.
And if I get into an altercation somewhere, my first thought is, I'll swallow my pride and let this person walk away with their honor and their pride. If they don't want to do it and they keep pushing the issue to the point where there is violence, well, then you might have chosen the wrong idea.
Right.
But peace should always be the first option. And Israel's tried it. And there's been a line that's been said several times here since October the 7th that I've heard it. It's been said by many people. I truly believe it. What would happen if Hamas laid down all their arms tomorrow? There'd be peace.
Yeah.
What would happen if Israel laid down all their arms tomorrow?
They'd be slaughtered.
There'd be 7-something million dead Jews in Israel.
Yeah.
That's what they're dealing with. They're not dealing with rational people.
So and that's what I think majority of the people have a problem with. And here's where a strong leader makes a decision. There's going to come a time where you have to make a call that you don't really want to make. And you have to do that. I'm sorry, other people force your hand, and idle hands are not the answer.
No. And we've done it as a country before. We did it after 9/11. We did it in World War II when we dropped the atomic bomb twice on Japan. They looked at it and they said, if we were to island hop through the Pacific, get to Japan, and then raid Japan proper, there would be millions and millions of dead American soldiers.
Yeah.
They said the other option is we can drop this bomb. We drop one of them, Japan's probably going to surrender. Now, the Japanese were a proud people. We dropped one. They kept fighting. We dropped the second one, and they decided they'd had enough.
Smart decision.
Now, I'm not saying you go nuclear on them. I don't think anyone should go nuclear anywhere in the world because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Right.
But, I think you go conventional warfare on them. You show your might because really when it comes down to it, to use a boxing analogy, this is like Mike Tyson in his prime fighting a nobody.
Right.
When you look at the military might of Israel, it far exceeds Hamas.
Right.
Hamas's only option, if they continue down this path, is guerrilla warfare. And people may say, "Well, Chad, that's what the colonialists did in the Revolutionary War was guerrilla warfare. We weren't a match for the English army head on." But the big difference is Israel right now so much outclasses Hamas. Yeah, Hamas will dink and dunk and get some IDF forces here and there. But when it comes down to it, they're not a match. Israel's already shown that they can walk right through them.
Well, and the difference now is back then when you take, well, it's what the colonists did. That's what they did. Well, but look at the technology of weapons. Mm-hmm. We're so far more advanced than that's no longer an argument.
And the other thing, because the technology of weaponry has come light years, but the other thing that the colonists did that you can't do today is back then you had the officers in the English army, and they told everyone below them what to do.
Yeah.
Without that officer telling them what to do, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
The colonialists picked up on that, and they started targeting officers because then the rest of the army's in disarray, and that strength of mass numbers falls apart.
Right.
It's not that case with today's standing armies.
No,
it
really
you
isn't.
take out the lieutenant, well, guess what? There's a sergeant right underneath them that knows exactly what to do and probably has just as much, if not more, experience than that lieutenant.
And might be itching to have that position.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. So
I've got friends that are in the military that have said, it's not uncommon for a lieutenant to pull his sergeant aside, especially if his sergeant has been in the military for a long time, has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and the lieutenant is maybe someone that isn't far removed from going to college and then joining the military. It's not unheard of for them to pull that sergeant aside and just ask for a little advice.
Yeah. It's a different world
Mm-hmm.
we live in.
And that's what makes a military like ours, a military like Israel's, England's, and any large developed first world country that has put resources into their military. It's not well, I'm the lieutenant, so I know everything anymore. It's more of a cohesive, hey, let's get some input from people that may have more experience or a little bit different knowledge, and then let's put all that together and look at the best solution, which Israel is showing they are great at doing.
Well, what really should happen is Israel should just give them an ultimatum. It should be the ultimatum. It should say, surrender now, drop all your arms, you can walk away. If you choose not to, you don't exist anymore. And then, I'm sorry, if Hamas says, screw you, then, you know what? Israel needs to, I guess, come through with that promise.
I like that idea. Here's the problem with it. One, I don't think there's any way Hamas would take them up on that offer because Israel has said that to them before.
Right.
Two, even if they did take them up on that offer, you're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah, and 6 months later, you're having the same problem.
6 months, a year, 5 years down the road, they're going to pull the same shit.
See, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot.
I wish they shoot themselves in the head, but it'd make
That's a
life
whole
a lot
different
better
story.
for all of us.
I agree.
But no, I I think at this point it's finally come to the time where Israel needs to say, we've had enough. We've tried to play nice. We've tried to give you what you want. We've tried to compromise. I'm putting together a history of Israel that I'm going to do, going all the way back to the time of the Canaanites to today. And the amount of land that Israel has given up over the years to try and make peace, and the concessions they've offered to make is just insane. I mean, something that I don't think there's any other government in the world would even consider.
I'm a big history buff, so I am looking forward to that episode.
It's going to take a while. It's a work in progress. Hopefully it'll be recorded within the next week or two. It is one that once I do get it recorded and get everything finalized in it, it's going to get released right away, because I think that there are a lot of people that hear this, Palestinians want their land back. Never was Palestinian land. It's all a farce. Going back to the time of David and Saul, it was where Israel found its spot.
Right.
But yeah, there'll be a whole big thing on that. But for now, I'm not for mass violence, but at the same time, at this point, Israel's gotten to that breaking point, and they've got to follow through on the course and take Hamas completely out of the world picture.
I have to agree. I don't want to, but I have to agree.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up. That's going to be all for me. Please give me a like, a follow. Whatever you're on. I'm on all the major podcast players. Give me a big thumbs up, heart, whatever it is. All of you take care. That's all for me tonight, and I am out of here.